Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Groyper Report. Tonight, we have some groundbreaking news to share with you.
Welcome to the Groyper Report. Introducing the most racist men alive. They are shutting it down as we speak. Welcome to the Groyper Report. Sexist. Racist. Phobic this, phobic that. Terrorizing women across the country. Telling them to wear clothes. Saying all women are mid. Minorities fear them. The president has them on speed dial.
Guess what? Your body, my choice.
Brought to you by Frog Aura Maxing. Brought to you by Frog. GigaChat Central, yes, thank you for asking. They all must go. Welcome to the one and only. Defending the last white men on Earth. AtlasThugged and Josh Vandernord. This is the Groyper Report.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to another episode of the Groyper Report. I am your host, AtlasThugged, aka Aaron Shepard, just another racially ambiguous Groyper, joined by
Joshua Vandernord. What's up, everybody?
We are the one network that is not afraid to say Christ is King. And I want to say thank you to everybody who turned up for the recent debate we had on NAV. Don't know how many more legs that boomer has left to stand on, but I'm going to give it a rest for now. Somebody else can teach that old man a lesson, just like SpongeBob. Go ahead,
I was going to say, Atlas, you can stop cooking because he's well done. Time to get out of the kitchen.
There's no moisture left. The meat is old. No, but let's be true, or let's be fair. Chuck
goodness.
He was a good partner in this, although I would argue, I think he was being pretty bad faith in the discussion. He at least did show up to take some punches. But enough with that. So you guys are ready to get into the Groyper Report, get into the week that we had, which was kind of all over the place and was a lot. This is kind of different from last week, which is a lot of the same. So I'm excited to get into it. I believe the first thing we kind of have on Monday actually is going to be the gift that kind of came out of nowhere, which was the fact that Donald Trump, when pressed about Nick Fuentes, and I believe also Tucker Carlson, he said that he basically just wouldn't disavow it. He kind of gave a basic platonic response and said, I think we need to have these conversations. And so that'll be the first clip we're going to get into before we get later into the week on Monday with what Nick had to say in response to this. So here we go.
Recently had a friendly interview with anti-Semite Nick Fuentes. Tucker Carlson. What role do you think Tucker Carlson could play in the Republican Party and the conservative movement going forward?
Well, I found him to be good. I mean, he said good things about me over the years. I think he's good. We've had some good interviews. I did an interview with him where we had 300 million hits. You know that. Look, I can't tell him. Will you let me finish my statement? You are the worst. You're with Bloomberg, right? You are the worst. I don't know why they even have you. We've had some great interviews with Tucker Carlson, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to do it, get the word out. Let him, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide.
Carlson recently had...
So Josh, what were your thoughts on that?
This was an absolute bombshell, Atlas. Like you said, this was the gift that keeps on giving, and a great way to start out the week because, there's a reason that Ben Shapiro has not said Nick Fuentes' name in 8 years until he was essentially forced to, because there's power in Christ's name, but there's a reason the Jews don't say Christ's name either, because they don't want you to even think about him. They don't want you to think about Jesus, and they don't want you to think about Nick Fuentes. And now President Trump, say what you will about him, but in front of God, you, me, and the whole world, said Nick Fuentes' name. And now your average Fox News watcher, CNN watcher who has still managed to slip through the cracks of not knowing who Nick Fuentes is, now they do.
Yeah, and it was funny to see the reaction, because I think the funniest thing about this was Nick obviously being excited and being like, let's go Trump. But it was all of the ankle biters, like the Jaden McNeils and the Eyal Jacobis of the world, coming out and saying, you can't even trust this guy. Here he is, praising Donald Trump when he said not to vote for him. And it's like, are we this level of shackled thinking here? Perhaps we are, but I thought it was funny to see everybody kind of rage out over it. And this kind of was a through line as well, too, because Tucker, throughout the week, and we'll see this as it continues on, defended Nick like over and over again. And as it kind of went through the week, from his interviews with like Nolan Haley, through his interviews with, I believe it was like the 1819 podcast, as well as his sit down with Sean Ryan, over and over again, Tucker, it's like it's incremental each step. Tucker's like, well, I think we should have these conversations. To by the end of the week, he's like, well, I think they're right. I think what they're mad about, and they're right about it. And so that was kind of a cool development to see. And I think Tucker maybe watching where the winds are blowing, who knows on Tucker, but let's see, what did Nick have to say in response to this? And it was also a bit of Tucker Carlson as well. So here this is. Let me find it. Make sure I have the right one. Here we go.
Last night, MAGA spoke in one voice. And yesterday, President Trump himself finally weighed in on the Civil War, and he said Tucker can interview whoever he likes. He says, get the word out. Let people decide for themselves. That's a wrap. Sorry, pro-Israel. Sorry, Zionists. Sorry, Israel first. That's a wrap. MAGA has spoken. And the message is loud and clear. Our right as Americans to speak freely, our right to freedom of expression, our right for voluntary association with one another has prevailed over your overriding interest in one country and its geopolitical ambitions in the Middle East. Yes, you lost. And it goes without saying, it should be obvious that this is where the vast majority of Americans are, on the right and the left now. There is now a complete synthesis and a heavy overlap between the right and the left, and it's this: we have a Constitution. We have a First Amendment. We have independence. We have sovereignty. And as Americans, we have the right, guaranteed by the Constitution, but given to us by God, to talk to each other. Americans can talk to each other.
So that was kind of the gist of the response there, which was, again, a through line you'll find when there is this contention here from the pro-Israel and the Israeli in general crowd, which is they don't appreciate the First Amendment. But before I get long-winded, Josh, what were your thoughts? You're muted.
You are correct. I am muted. Not anymore, though. So we talked about this a little bit last week, how like there are specific things where when they happen, we instinctually understand them. But one of Nick's talents, one of the things that makes him such a provocative and great speaker, is that he really nails them home. And this was one of those instances, I believe, where he honed in on the fact that this is our God-given right, and it is also a constitutional right. Now, obviously, we talk about this all the time on NAV, but a law is only as good as how is it enforced. So right. If we're not allowed to criticize the Jewish people, then then free speech, what does that even mean? So this is, as Nick stated, a tremendous victory for free speech. And he mentions this later. I don't know if we have any clips of that, but he mentions how there was a super chat where they said, I guarantee Donald Trump is going to be like henpecked into backtracking. And Nick basically said, oh, I guarantee that's going to happen. But the problem is he's already said this. It's on camera. He can't take it back. And it is what it is. It's set in stone now.
Well, you know what it's going to be? It's going to be with the MO here. We're going to get some random report from WAPO, and it's going to say, actually, Secretary of State Marco Rubio clarified Donald Trump's remarks. What Donald Trump actually meant was, no, we should cancel Nick, but maybe we should talk to Tucker, right? It's going to be something along those lines where you're not going to see it on video. It'll be from someone else in the cabinet saying what he really meant was this. Yeah, because you got to keep a leash on that old man, don't you? But that was good, and I think he was probably speaking from the heart. But go ahead.
I think though, I feel like, and I want to get your take on this, Atlas. I feel like if that were going to happen, it would have happened by now. Because keep in mind, it's Saturday. This clip is from, I believe, Sunday night. So I feel like it's kind of like there's a half-life to these things, and if there was any time for them to do it, you know, like for them to come out and for Marco Rubio to come out and say it now, like, again, to the sort of passive news watcher who maybe isn't fully aware of Nick Fuentes, that maybe that this clip is what put Nick Fuentes in their minds. He's already kind of been filtered out. For Marco Rubio to come out and bring it up now, it is going to kind of like hammer in the like, oh, who is this? Even if, you know, it's Donald Trump, they're instinctually going to hate him if Donald Trump tells them to. But now it's kind of being like hammered in. It's kind of being chipped into their brains if they do that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I don't think at any point they're going to walk it back at all. And I think it was also like on the onset too. Like I think immediately after he made those comments, Asmongold has a clip going viral of him reacting to it and saying like, oh yeah, here we go. This is how we should run it in America. And I think there are a lot of people now at this point that are moving closer to that position, which is like, let him talk. Let the guy talk. We don't care how offended you are by the words that are coming out of his mouth. And this has culminated to do a couple of odd things we'll get to at the end of the week as well. Because Tim Pool was now defending Nick Fuentes against Joel Berry, of all people, and which is, you know, kind of funny, but I think we precluded that with last week when we let you guys know when Tim Pool was disinvited from the TPUSA AM Fest event. So maybe he's not walking the line enough. But for Monday, though, did you want to go to the must play of Nick Fuentes crashing out?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, so we have this crash out here, but we're probably not going to be able to play the entire thing. But it is hilarious. And this is Nick Fuentes responding to a super chatter, I believe, was it over seed oils or something along those lines? But it's Nick basically in the kick of pushing back against anybody pushing for this kind of, organic lifestyle, if you will. But here we go.
Big sent $20. Culver's flavor of the day is Candace's chocolate cheeks. Are you getting a scoop, nigga?
Oh, yeah. Scoopy's going to have to hold me back. Scoopy, the frozen custard mascot, going to have to get out of the way. I'm be jumping over the counter. Give me that flavor of the month. Get me triple scooped up flavor of the month. I had Culver's today. I got the chicken tenders and the mac and cheese. Yeah, and what about it? Farm fresh, pasture raised, corn-free, antibiotic-free. Dude, I saw one of these videos the other day. You know, let me just take a deep breath first because I'm literally going to spontaneously combust. I'm going to like burst into flames if I keep working myself up like this. I saw a video this week. I saw it last night, and it's this guy, and he's got a video. He goes, this is what I bought. These are my groceries for the week. And it's like a table with like all this meat, eggs, vegetables, sourdough bread, water, a bunch of stuff. And it like the whole time he's just like up talking. He's like, so we got some really nice farm fresh pasture raised eggs. We got some nice honey made ice cream. We got some nice plums. We got some nice broccoli. We got some, it was always some this, some that, some whatever. And I just want to grab that guy. He's probably 3 times my size. He would probably kill me with one punch. But in my imagination, I would like to grab this guy by the collar and just scream into his face, who the fuck cares? You went grocery shopping? Good for you. You went to the grocery store and bought meat, eggs, and vegetables? Someone Get this man a trophy. Tell Time Magazine. Somebody called Time Magazine most influential of the year, Time Person of the Year. The guy that went grocery shopping, who cares? Okay, you discovered meat and eggs? Congrats. And always the up talking. We got some nice cruelty-free, pasture-raised, corn-free, organic eggs. We got some sourdough products. We got some plums, which are just in season. We got, like, that was the video. And I'm watching this, and I'm just like, you fucking asshole.
So that's kind of like the gist of how that clip goes. And it wasn't the only time this week that he actually crashed out over the organic side of the right wing, which is funny because there is kind of like the farm fresh eggs, the organic milk, that side of the right wing that's kind of the hippy dippy version of us. I have no beef with them, and I do find some of their stuff actually intriguing. But what were your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I don't have as much of a beef with them as Nick does. It is kind of like all right, guys, let's pick our battles here. Like, is you're telling me if I got locally sourced eggs, I'd like grow wings and shoot lasers out of my eyes for real? How much? Yeah, it's like the guy from Scott Pilgrim. If you're a vegan, then you have like force powers or something like that. Not how it works. This was
gay powers. You just become
that's
gay.
Right. The main, like, this was a fun Nick crash out, but like the main reason I wanted to include this one is the part at the very beginning where the guy was like, he's like, oh, you liked what was it, Culver's like new mac and cheese? What about Candace's like chocolate cheeks, their new like flavor of the month? And he was talking about Scoopy, the mascot's gonna have to hold him back.
My favorite part was
I heard that in my headphones and I was dying laughing.
Well, I just love when he changes his voice, he's like, you asshole, dude. It's like, that does describe me watching some of these videos. Not any of like the farm free range or any of it. It's generally when I'm watching like the over the top, like guys who try to do what Joey Swole does, but they're so cringe, you know, and like they're making videos where they're popping their pecs and they're like, and now we're gonna do 2 sets of this, and like they have an episode and they do something gay. It's like, dude, you make me not want to lift. You make me not want to go to the gym at all, actually. But I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, a little more like that's how I feel about certain like movie review content that like people that I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but I call them pretentious movie F words, and it's like, it's basically like, oh, this movie sucks. Yeah. I love it. It's the best. And I'm like, stop. It's not good. Matt Damon sucks, and I hate Good Will Hunting. Get it out of here.
Well, that's me. Was like during the majority of Gamergate when they're coming out and they're like, man, this game would have been great, but like, there's no gay people in it, so we have to give it an 8 out of 10. It's like, dude. It's like, dude. Like, oh, I can't stand that stuff. But to put a cap though in Monday, I think Monday in the week before was largely defined by how many histrionic Jews came out to rage about the Tucker costs. And I think one in particular that I will highlight, because it's going to be referenced again later in the week, is this one from Aaron Wexler. And so I'm not going to play it at all. I'm going to play it, but I'm not going to play the whole thing, just a little bit of it, so you guys get an idea of this kind of nagging and henpecking that's going on, because I think it does matter, and it will play a role in some of these clips later on. But here is this one. Let me switch it over for you.
You deserve help. I think your circumstances are unjust and that you are worthy of sympathy. But you should want to fix your life, not burn the world down out of spite. I get it. Your souls are so whipped raw with rejection and failure that you feel transgression and provocation are all that you're capable of. This is my open letter to the Groypers from a Jewish woman.
And so obviously nobody here cares or gives a shit at all what was about to come out of that woman's mouth. The point is that she made a 20-minute video thinking that we would, like want to hear what she had to say. And, and it's, we're already basically laughing at all the guys who are doing it because it's super cringe. But like when a woman starts doing it, it's like, now the gloves are coming off, dude. Now see me in the boxing ring, let's see, let's see if you can survive this 3-inch rod. but it is annoying.
Well, it shows how retarded these people are. That like it was almost like a counter, like a counter trend to Nick was I'm going to make a Dear Groypers video. They were they saw that guy from the Blaze and they were like, oh, that's a good idea. I got to get in on this. That it's like the ALS ice bucket challenge for politics, and they all suck. It was all terrible.
Right. Well, it's like they see everybody else doing it. It's through that virtuous signal, right? But it's like the other way around. Before it would be, everyone's got a black square on their Instagram. Well, now it's like you got to make a Dear Groyper video. That's you sending your virtue. Like I'm one of you guys, right? And it's not effective
fellow kids
at all. And I guess the final point I would say on that was, I don't understand why they keep doing it. I don't understand why they keep pushing these videos out. Maybe
because they're out of touch, dude. They genuinely don't get it. Keep in mind, these people well, maybe not her, but like they just heard about Nick Fuentes, and it's this boomer mindset where it's like, whoa, he said the N-word. See, this is guys. If you wanna get ahead in the world, you can't be acting so immature like this. It's like, okay, so what do you want me to act like? You?
Yeah.
You've done nothing. You've accomplished nothing politically, socially. You suck, and we're tired of it.
Yeah, tell me again how you need to have 7 stars a week to get, to have sexual access to your wife. Good job, buddy. Like, no one wants any part of that, dude. But moving on to Tuesday, though, I think this is actually going to start not on the show with Nick Fuentes. This is actually the fact that there was a white guy. I forget where it actually occurred, but he was being harassed by a Antifa, just some weird and indignant individual, raging at him about being a Nazi because he's wearing an America First hat, and I believe he was also holding a cross. But here's this video. We won't play too much of it because it is just kind of annoying to listen to. But here it is.
Get the fuck back over.
Get walking, Nazi. Get fucking walking, Nazi.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm not trying to be recorded. I just want to open dialogue.
Keep going, motherfucker. Keep going. Keep going.
No one wants to dialogue with a Nazi. I voted for Bernie in 2015. I really
Yeah, so fucking Nazi. Fuck you. Fuck you. Keep walking, motherfucker.
Please. Get out of here.
Keep going, you fucking Nazi.
I'm just trying to have dialogue, man.
I don't care about your fucking dialogue. Your dialogue's based off the extermination of other people. Get the fuck across the street, motherfucker. Get the fuck across the street.
We're not hostile.
So it just basically continues like that. He gets chastised. I do believe towards the end of the video, he does end up walking across the street like they were demanding him to and screaming at him. But the point I'll say before I turn over to you, Josh, is the fact that the America First hat is now a recognizable item. And it's now recognizable so much that the left has assigned it now as equal to MAGA, right? Being a Nazi. But your thoughts, Josh?
First observation, the dude wearing the America First hat looks like skinny, or I might even say jacked Tim Dillon. I just noticed that. But little piece of advice. This is why I wanted to talk about this clip. This is a debate that we kind of have on Nav. It's a debate Zeb and I have had on Outside the Overton before, is public demonstration. So I'm going to interject. We're doing a little less Groyper reporting and a little more PSA, public service announcement. If you're going to go to, like, I don't know what this was. This was clearly some kind of demonstration. There was a lot of people there. They were all wearing masks, Antifa stuff going on.
Yeah.
If you're going to wear the America First hat, which is provocative, go with a group or don't go at all.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest, you're kind of asking for trouble, which I would recommend against doing in the first place. But if you're going, you have to be safe. You know what I mean? The best thing and it sucks to say, look, I get it. Crossing the street because a 5'8" man with a ponytail is getting up in your face, you're going to want to kill yourself every day for the rest of your life for doing it. But it's better than being in jail or dead, because like I'm not a supporter of the Proud Boys. I mean, I'm not against the Proud Boys, but like the Proud Boys got attacked by Antifa defended themselves. They were the ones that got injured, and then they were prosecuted. Like,
Right.
be smart, guys.
Yeah, you have to be smart. I quit doing this stuff just because it was like, I have a family now, so I don't want to be bringing any damage to me. Because even if something only happens to me, it still hurts the family that's involved as well too. And so, I do think, given the idea of what we know about the environment, it's like you got to know what risk you're taking. And it's like, not to say I wouldn't do it again either, like I would, but I probably wouldn't do it solo, trying to be behind enemy lines, and do something that's extremely risky.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you're going to Antifa, like let's have open dialogue, guys.
Right.
Bro,
And somebody did say that they thought this was the same person that hit Cam Higbee, and I just checked and verified this was the same anti-Muslim protest that happened in Dearborn. So with that in mind, this guy might also just have been a plant as well, given the fact that Cam Higbee and Jake Lang are plants as well too. Cam Higbee hasn't done it as much as Jake Lang, but Jake Lang, I would argue, is probably at this point a complete federal informant, and I would say even at best.
I was going to say that's a good point, because I do acknowledge that, like, the America First name, like Nick Fuentes' name is rising, and it is organic to me that like an Antifa person might recognize the hat, but him being a Fed actually makes more sense.
Well, yeah, and I would imagine now too, like that was probably where we're going with this, which is you're going to have a lot of people who have probably barely ever listened to Nick or never listened to Nick at all, or are just party with Jake Lang, and they're going to put on an America First hat, get in a brawl with the Antifa, or do something stupid, and the disavows are going to have to start coming out, right? I would imagine, especially the closer we get to 2028 with more demonstrations going on, there's going to be more America First hats. And let me say this now too, because we missed it off of Monday, but I think he makes the announcement later on in the week. Fuentes.store, you can now buy Nick Fuentes merch with credit cards. But funnily enough, I tried last night and I was denied and sent fraudulent. I had to like call not the bank, but the credit card company, because they were like, fraudulent activity detected. And I was like, what? It's like, is this purchase valid? I was like, yes. And then it wouldn't let me buy it. So you can try if you want, but I'm sure many of the companies will try to prevent you from. But with that being a thing, though, and his merchandise and it's proliferating out, makes it that much easier for someone who wants to do something nefarious in it, wearing it, not actually because they believe in it, but because they want the image and optics to be seen bad. We're now getting to that point where that is going to be something the door has been opened to that being a tactic against the America First movement. So keep that in mind as well as we move forward, because Jake Lang, I think, obviously was trying to position himself as a Timu America Firster to kind of steer and commandeer, maybe paint the Groypers as doing something or being involved in that anti-Muslim protest there. Moving forward, though, we're going to get into like maybe what was the first controversial thing that Nick had said this week, which was his push for a partnership with the left. Now, if people were here, I believe this was 2 weeks ago, this was kind of my argument from the original very controversial clip where Nick said didn't matter what color you were, he would ally with anybody. And I think in this same vein, in the left and right coming together, which what I has always argued, which he's probably looking at it like a strategic objective, which would be more strategically expedient of anything that we could solve right now, would be the decoupling of Israel. And so if we can get some of that help from the left, who's also very anti-Israel, and we can combine forces, that's probably the best option we have moving forward to maintain America's sovereignty. Not an argument in terms of, will we get everything that we want, but in terms of achieving the end goal of being our own sovereign nation. I believe that's where this is coming from. Did you have anything you wanted to say before I play the clip?
No, go ahead and play it.
All right, here it is. Let me pull it up for you.
Blueprint. This is how we take over. And by the way, hey, and get a load of this. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie working together against the interests to compel the files. What do you think that has? A 90% approval rating? If you had progressive Democrats and nationalist Republicans working together, let's say to compel the release of the Epstein files, what kind of approval rating do you think that has? 90%? And what if they got together and they opposed foreign aid to Israel? What approval rating do you think that would have? 90%? What if they got together and worked on the basis of a common interest Do you think that that Republicans or independents running under that brand, do you think that that would become more popular or less popular over time? 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. It snowballs. And we need to propel someone into the White House that is just a populist. And here's where we're going to have to give. This is going to be the compromise. Very simple. The left has to give up immigration. That's simple. The left is going to have to give up. Look, we can have equity and we can have equality in the country. We can have civil rights. We can have all those things. But we have to close the damn borders. We have to close it. Too many illegal immigrants. Too many legal immigrants. That has to be the compromise. The left has to give on immigration, and the right has to give on the free market. If the right can come down on healthcare and on a social safety net and maybe on some subsidies for education, and if the left can come down on the anti-white open border stuff and they can agree that we have a country, that party will win 90% of the vote and rule for a century. That's the compromise. That's the populist compromise. Why is it that for the left, it's like they don't even care about anything else? It just has to be open borders. And on the right, it's like they don't care about anything else as long as it's foreign aid to Israel and war in the Middle East and war with Russia. That's the kind of program that we need. And that's what they're terrified of. They're terrified that the left and the right are going to come together on the basis of stop supporting Israel, on the basis of close the borders, on the basis of restricting money in politics and the influence of the oligarchs. That's what they're terrified of.
So he's going to ultimately clarify some more on this later in the week. This was the first one, but it's in the same vein, I think, from what was 2 weeks ago that was very controversial about this partnership he was proposing. But I do think that is the direction we are going. I think it's kind of just being telegraphed by all the polling data when you can see the Gen Z support for Israel. I mean, in the low single-digit percentages. And if they're opposing minority groups at the time, you know, say the Gen Xers age up, and they're in like a 30% minority, I mean, they're going to lose. I do think ultimately, though, in terms of the specifics, the borders element will be the push that the right has to convince the left of. And he does say this too later on, but the inverse is the healthcare element for the right. And so who knows like how much we'll get from there, but this will be a long-term thing, right? It's not going to be in the next 4 years. It'll be probably the development of a long-term partnership over the next 10 years, I would imagine. And probably seeing the closer Nick can get to taking a political office. But your thoughts, Josh?
No, I think you're right. And to me, this is one of Nick's takes that's a little bit of what we call an IQ gate, where it really tests because look, Nick does not, when he explains things, it sounds contradictory at times, but that's because how do I put this? It's like he's explaining it based on the context of the day. And so the idea that like we're going to partner with the hardcore anti-white right and then get them to stop being anti-white left and get them to stop being anti-white, people go, well, that's never going to happen. And it's like you're misunderstanding the point completely. Is the awareness on both sides, the left and the right, the bases of these two parties, that the centrists, that the people in the middle are the enemy. That's the point. And so it's not to say that this joining between the left and the right is permanent. And if it were, what would it look like? And he gives the example. All right, well, the left has to give up immigration. People say, well, that's not realistic. Well, maybe it isn't, but this is just, we're speculating here. That's what I like about Nick's show, is he thinks outside the box. Even if you just like hand wave away this statement as like, this is completely irrational, it's not going to happen. There's some truth to that, but it got you thinking, didn't it? Otherwise you probably wouldn't have even considered this.
I guess what I would add to that as well would be the way I also see it too is like people, again, you kind of said it as well with the IQ gate. People think like partnership and they think like all of a sudden you're now buddy, you're in complete alignment, you're in 100%, we're slapping each other on the ass saying good game, you know, we're in bed with each other. And the way I don't view it like that, it's the same way I talk about the podcasters too. And like just different people in the space. It's like use them for the tools they are. Use the left as willingness to their compromise. And then as soon as we decouple from Israel, we turn around and we say, all right, now you're out of power. Thanks for being here. Now we're going to push for Christian nationalism and goodbye. Because the element here is like, if this is the goal, right? If we are trying to circumvent violent revolution and we're trying to, in my opinion, there's still heavy reform that needs to be done. And I think Nick wouldn't disagree with that. It's going to take, a very broad outside of the political system kind of effort. And so if that does come from, Nick pushing for this kind of alliance between the youth on this certain element, I think it's maybe the best bet moving forward outside of just pure kind of balkanization. And I'd imagine we would see balkanization before we would see any kind of actual conflict. People would try their best to maybe separate or move away or decouple in their own kind of formats, but we want to circumvent that as much as we can because the breakdown of society ultimately will result in very negative consequences. I guess moving off of there, though, we will reflect on this as we get closer to, I believe, either Wednesday or Thursday. There's a few more less serious kind of funny things, but before I move on, Josh, is there anything else you wanted to add?
On that note, on the left wing and right wing joining, one thing before we move on, and I'm sure it'll come up again in a little bit, but something that I think is very important when considering this take is I understand the people on our side, the apprehension of the right wing to kind of cringe at the idea of working with the left, because what does this look like? We're so used to guys on our side, the conservative GOP establishment. Basically, what it means is when we come to work with the left, what it really is a win for the left. So when they hear, okay, we're going to make a partner with the hardcore leftists, that's what they think is it's okay. This is just the leftists winning. But I think something that Nick has demonstrated over the years, and especially very recently, which we're going to get into that a little bit with some of the Tucker Carlson clips I have prepared, Nick has resolve, which is something we are so not used to on the Republican side, which is there are issues. So we need to establish early on, as he says, the issues we're willing to concede on, which is healthcare, subsidies, that sort of stuff. That's what we're willing to concede on. Christianity, white identity, these are things that we are not going to concede on. And I have faith in this movement that we will have the resolve to do so.
Yeah. And let me address this too. I think this is a pretty common misconception. Tlagosha says, left and right are the same thing. Why are we acting like they're not? And this is, in terms of who's holding the political office, yes, the closer you get to the upper federal offices, they are. But a leftist IRL, like this leftist Starbucks barista, is not anything close to the guy who's working at the mechanics 70 hours a week. Left and right still does exist, like in the people. The ideas still exist, and they proliferate themselves inside all of us as individuals. But you got to be able to separate those things, right? There's still two different elements. Now, again, at the highest levels, obviously it's a bit more theater, and they're placating for the most part. But we still have to ally with those ideas in the actual people who are going to be voting for those things inside the parameters of left and right. Like there's still groups. We still use these terms because they do mean something at the end of the day. But moving off of there, because we will keep covering this and pounding it later on. Pause. Moving on to Ryan Gosling.
Resume.
Which is, resume. Which is funny. Actually, let me address this too. This is from Frank the Tank. Thank you very much. $5 super chat. He says, this thing on. And it looks like it is correct. Thank you, Frank.
I was about to say, am I muted?
No. I did want to get your thoughts on this because you are the movie guy. Because I'm sad about the one that he left off. But Nick names his top 3 Ryan Gosling films, and I'm glad that it's funny that he did because Ryan Gosling is one of my favorite actors of all time, if not maybe currently my favorite actor right now. But here is this. It's a shorter one.
Luke sent $30. Top 3 Ryan Gosling movies?
Oh, let's see. Place Behind the Pines. Highly underrated. Drive. Blade Runner. Easy. Oh, no. Scratch that. Only God Forgives. Those are my top 3. Drive. Place Behind the Pines. Only God Forgives. Top 3 Gosling movies. Easy. Brian Gosling. Oh, what? La La Land. Oh, but what about La La Land, guys? What about, no, that's so hard. La La Land is maybe the number 4. Close number 4. I'd say number 1, Drive. Number 2, Only God Forgives. Maybe number 3, Place Behind the Pines / La La Land. Maybe flip those around.
Josh, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not a big musical fan. Nick says he likes musicals, which everyone says is gay. I don't think it's gay, but I just don't enjoy them personally. I like La La Land because of its story. I love the ending, which is funny because most women don't, because it's a good ending. It's bittersweet, as life often is. But some like Across the Pines or whatever that one was called. I've not seen that, so I can't really comment on it. But
One
I
was huge when it
definitely
came out.
Blade Runner. And I know that's kind of a meme on our side. That's a meme, like meme heavy movie, but it's good, dude. Blade Runner 2049 is genuinely like one of the best films ever made. I love it. It's long, it's slow, and I've seen it like 20 times.
Yeah. No, that would be, I'd probably put that at number 2. I'd keep Beyond the Pines and Only God Forgives. I would drop Drive.
I need to watch those two, Beyond the Pines and Only God Forgives. I haven't seen it. I was going to say the same thing, and I know it's kind of a hot take on in our circles, but I think Drive is a little overrated. Not bad.
Interesting. Those are fighting words for some people right now.
I know. But it's a little, let's be honest. I think people like it because they can relate to it, not because it's good.
There is an element of that too. That kind of, before we get too much off into the sidebar, I think that's why Perks of a Wallflower did so well. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Yeah.
What's all these esoteric art films?
Yeah. You have not seen that? It's based off of a book.
What's it called? Flowers of a Wall? So
it's Perks of a Wallflower, and it's the gist of it is just based on a kid who, like, he just observed. He's a huge introvert. He has a hard time making friends. And so it's basically stole from a very like internal monologue point of view. So the guy never actually engages in conversation. He's like always talking about how he's watching people have conversations. And then he eventually gets friends, and then it goes on. It has a very sad ending, or sad revelation, I should say. There's to get closer to the end. But I think in the same vein, I don't think the movie was good. I think people just related to the character. They related to being like introverted or lonely or whatnot. But moving on, though, something I want to pick back up on in terms of the Aaron Wexler thing, and this is something that's been prominent, I would say, for the last couple of years, even more so nowadays as well, given the fact that the manosphere kind of called for more open and vocal opposition from the feminist crowd, obviously, and then that also brings about those who are kind of in the middle of the line to kind of pick a side. You know, Myron Gaines or Tommy Lauren, and most people got to say Tommy Lauren because their wife might be listening to them. So with that being said, Nick had a great take on how much young women hate men, and specifically not just hating men, but hating the ones who actually choose to lead themselves. And they set a path for themselves. And I thought it was a pretty good take. But here is this one.
They cannot conceal it. They hate men. They're man-hating. Even the conservative ones, they hate men. And then they'll say, no, I don't hate men. And you go, really? Which men do you like? And they say a guy like James Comey. They say a guy like Barack Obama. They say a guy like Megyn Kelly's husband, Doug. They like guys that are docile and pacified, guys that are totally whipped. Any man that's actually masculine, and by that I mean not politically correct. I mean they're aggressive, they're competitive, they're pugnacious, because that's sort of what masculinity is. They cannot conceal how much they hate it. And that's what young men want. Young men are mischievous. Young men are adventurous. They're risk-taking. They're edgy. They've always have been. Always throughout history, young men have always been idealistic. They've always been against convention. That's sort of what it is to be a young man. And it's all these women that want to slap that down, and they're accomplices. I'm sort of joking. It's funny to say it that way. but it's their accomplices, the simps and the wife guys, that are just as much a part of it. It's the Charlie Kirks. It's that douche from The Blaze who says, you come last. Your job is to procure resources for the nest. Shut up and go acquire straw for the nest for your wife and kids. And the young men are saying, I want meaning in my life. I want a life of consequence. I want a life of significance. I want to be a part of something. A part of something.
Okay. Well, something went wrong on that video. Apparently, it's not loading.
Hopefully it's just a one-off.
I'm hoping so too.
That'd be bad.
But
I think we got the gist of it.
Yeah, I think X is actually broke. To be honest with you.
Oh no.
Looks like it's on X's side. But I think the general just came across there, and this is what I would say to this too, as somebody who has went through this personally. As someone who's built like my own YouTube channel, like from the ground up. And when you hear about the stories from Drake or Kanye West or David Goggins, or anybody who has made it, right, and has risen to the highest levels of society in their own category, whatever they chose to make their wheelhouse, whatever they wanted to, cut their teeth on, you will never really hear the story of I listened to everything my parents did and they guided me every single step of the way, and I didn't have to sacrifice anything. I didn't take any risks. I just was able to walk my way into being the #1 show on Spotify. No, it's typically not that. It's the people who dropped out, went against all the wishes of their family members. They were like, nope, I have a belief in myself. I'm not going to walk the typical path. And that's something that a lot of these young guys have to push against, is all of this kind of pull of nope, don't believe in yourself. Go get a typical job here. And that's one element of it too, pushing back against the women and the wife guys, and doing that and saying, no, I think actually I should lead my marriage like this. I think I should establish my family like this. I think I should. And just to acknowledge for all the other guys out there, because this is a tough thing, but to acknowledge the fact that that is a real barrier. And thank you for becoming a member, brother. Appreciate that. And it is sad because I do think about it in hindsight, and not to be any bit of self-aggrandizing, but I look back on it and I'm like, there were many times where I almost quit. The pressures from the family and and loved ones being like, hey, you're putting us in danger, doing this, you're going to put yourself in danger. You're going to put us in danger, don't take those risks on. But me having to go, no, actually, I believe in this more than what I think you're fearful of. And even if I got close to quitting, it's I can't imagine how it is for other guys. And I'm a cocky person. I'll be honest, I'm a very cocky and arrogant person sometimes. And if I was close to quitting it, I can't imagine how the average guy is who is doesn't have that confidence in themselves, and how easy they just go, you know what, I will give up. I will just go work at Honda the rest of my life. But those are some of my opening thoughts there. Josh, you.
Yeah. That it really goes to show the mentality that has basically trickled down to us through feminism over the years. And we think, oh, feminism has gone too far, and it's okay to think that, but the water's already polluted, because it's this idea that a man's fulfillment is in a family alone. And, God calls us to be fruitful and multiply. These are important things, no doubt. But that's why, it's this idea that, what's the big deal? Whoa, man, why do you care? It's basically like soft nihilism, or even just nihilism, where it's I have many friends who they know I talk about politics, and they're like, dude, it doesn't matter. What's the big deal? I'm like, okay, well, it does matter.
Right.
It actually does.
Right. And I will speak at length on this just because I do think it does need to be said. And I'm also kind of tired of having to burden it a little bit. Specifically, if anybody's in my personal Discord or watches Offensively Accurate knows, I've talked at length of kind of some of those strengths and restrictions that's placed on, my wife's family. And, and they come from, I wouldn't say liberal. Well, Yeah, I would say liberal. And they don't see things the same way I do. They don't have the same value sets that I do. Not even close. And in fact, sometimes we're very, very far and contradicting. And what that does is it doesn't, I mean, some levels it builds a bit of resentment. But what it does is it puts a contentious and enemy friend distinction on your own family when you enter into politics of something like this. And when they see clips of me, and this happened, I mean, this is a real story. I was being clipped by other people in the extended family, and they were running basically a group chat of all the things I was saying online in an attempt to kind of, convince my wife that what I was saying was dangerous or evil or I was a bad person. This is you are going to be held back. You're going to have to break through every barrier that's placed in front of you. And that's just the way it is. This is kind of the definition of like weak men make hard times. It sucks, dude. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. You're going to probably take some losses. You're going to get punched in the gut a few times, but you have to push through it. And that's why I kind of say with hindsight for me, it's like everything I kind of went through and all kind of blessings I even had, like my voice and all that other stuff too, is like, it is rough, but not to spend too much time on that though. Josh, anything before we move on to Wednesday?
No, I think you raise a good point, buddy. And it's one of those things where that's one of the things that I think everyone realizes at some point when they get into this type of world, this political world, in the conditions that we currently exist in, is it's not even enough to, everyone says, just live and let live, man, until you do this. Right. And then they're going to come up with a secret group chat where they're clipping your stuff on your YouTube channel that I would assume at the time is not getting any or much traction.
Right.
And they're trying to like, it's your story and everything, but they're trying to basically turn your wife against you.
Right.
Like this is what we're dealing with.
And I will say this, I think, and not to leave it on a bad note, like where we are now, I think is in a good place. I think I've kind of given defenses of where I'm at. We're kind of in a good spot. It's just to make this claim that I can't imagine what else other people are going through or have attempted
Right.
and what they have lost, right? Because I had the blessing also that my parents kind of agreed with me. And I can't imagine how many people's parents agree with them, and they're like, hey, I listen to Nick Fuentes, right? For me, the conversation was able to go a lot easier than I think for a lot of people will be able to. I think there's even a famous tweet I saw the other day where it was like, from mom, and it was like, do you listen to this guy, this evil Nick Fuentes? And he like posted it and he was like, about to have the conversation, guys. And it's like, it's a hard thing to do. And you even saw that a little bit with the British Nick Fuentes, right? I think that's just a sad overall story, really. His family's against him just because they found out he's pushing for these ideals. And whatever you say about him, that does show this kind of, again, this contentious nature between the youth and parents and older individuals that I don't think you could really find as prominent as you can find closer to periods of revolution, i.e. periods like today, periods like the French Revolution and otherwise. Same thing with the American Revolution, family members were turning on each other left and right. But to go on to Wednesday, though, to skip ahead, this is a continuation of Nick's saying the left and right coming together. And so he obviously got attacked for his position that got clipped on Tuesday. So for the Wednesday show, he responded. And so here is the second one here. Let me put it up on screen for you. As long as X is going to work with us. Please work for us. There we go.
So I say this last night, and the clip goes out on Twitter, and predictably, everybody has something to say, and people are calling this National Socialism, which is Nazism. It's Nazi politics. They said, wait a second, you want cheap healthcare and closed borders? You're a Nazi. That's actually National Socialism because you're a nationalist and you're a socialist. It's in the name. That's what a Nazi is. So Dinesh D'Souza, who was born in India, Vivek Ramaswamy, who is an anchor baby and a big pharma scam artist, and many leftists too. They said, this is Nazi politics. So let me get this straight. Zohran Mamdani wins the mayoral election in New York, campaigning on affordability. He says, we want affordable public transit, affordable housing, affordable groceries, affordable healthcare, public services. Donald Trump wins the election saying, we want borders. 10 million illegal aliens in 4 years is way too many. We need to stop irregular migration. We need to deport many of the people that are here. We need to do this so we can put American labor first, so that Americans can have access to hospitals and schools, so that the cost of living is not being driven up by this glut of foreigners moving here, so that we still have some recognizable society. And so here I am saying, I have an idea. Why don't we take what people on the left care about, what people on the right care about? Let's just do both. Is that insane? And by the way, people on the right are also dependent on Obamacare subsidies and to some extent food stamps and government services, government contracts. And at the same time, much of what the left cares about is actually hurt by mass migration. How do you have public transit if you got people being lit on fire and stabbed in the throat? How do you have universal health care if you have open borders? Too expensive, can't do it. So here I come last night saying, okay, why don't we just have cheap health care? Why don't we just have investment in public resources, public services, and let's also close the borders? You know, because if you don't have an infinite amount of people from the third world moving here, maybe it's more doable, maybe it's more economical than it would otherwise be to have a social safety net. We already have one. Half the country already doesn't pay taxes. Half the country already is getting some form of government transfer in the form of Medicaid, Medicare, supplemental income, food stamps, subsidized housing, like you name it. And you had everybody from the center come in and say, you can't do that. You're a Nazi. That's what Hitler wanted to do. It's like, wait a second. I thought the problem with Hitler is that he did the Holocaust. You know? But now they're telling us, no, you're Hitler if you want to give people health care and close the borders. What? I thought you're Hitler if you want a Holocaust. I don't want a Holocaust. Isn't that the difference? They're telling us you cannot have a social safety net and borders because that's Hitler. Well, I thought the only reason Hitler is bad is because he committed a genocide. What if we just had the closed borders and healthcare without the genocide? Is that possible? Can we have a coherent nation and a government that takes care of its people?
It's funny that Kaiser Rev added the Mossad attack there at the end, which is funny because the stream was lagging out when he was recording it, I would imagine. And one thing I would add to... Oh, go ahead.
I thought that was you for a second.
No, it was the end of the
was glitching for
Rev
us.
clip. The one thing I would say too, especially on the healthcare element, is I do think that it is the biggest slap in the face that with our defense funding and other allocations, we do essentially subsidize multiple other countries' ability to have universal health care for themselves. And then while America remains unable to do so for our own people. And this touches a bit more on the overall element of the kind of, money sending we do geopolitically. And the second thing I will say too is that is part of the element of the post-war consensus. This is part of the element of not just the Holocaust, but Adolf Hitler himself. This is the cudgel that is used. And Nick was right on it, right? It's anything about that, anything about nationalism, anything about socialism or national socialism together. It's all thrown under the same bus that the Holocaust is, which is to be viewed as it being just as evil, or that, applying those economic policies will lead to a Holocaust, right? That's what they would have you believe. But Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add. I think you summed it up pretty well. It is kind of funny. Like, to me, it's just this like this tiresome, ceaseless like comparison. It's like we were talking about this a little bit before the show, but it's like these just boxes. You say one thing and it triggers like an autoimmune response in these people's brains. Nationalism, socialism, Hitler bad. And on top of that, this is coming from Vivek Ramaswamy. Like, dude.
Right. Well, this is like the idea
Go home.
Well, part of one of the tactics, right, for the original kind of communist march to the institutions, the Jewish march to the institutions, this battle on words, and this is an element of the fifth generational warfare, like the semantics, rechanging and redefining really what certain words mean, and, eliminating and hollowing out definitions for some while also broadly expanding and extrapolating the definitions of others. And that's kind of where we're at, which is exactly what you had said. Certain words trigger certain responses. And I would look at it the same way I would look at the way people received, when Nick said he admires Stalin. It immediately like throws people into a certain way they got to think. It's like it's been trained. I kind of think back to the way that in the song from Hobson, Nocturnal Rainbows, it's like you are the product of everything the government wanted you to be, right? It's like you're not even your own person. Like you are a creation. And for some people, it's a lot more true than others. But when you do peel back and you think about, the kind of music you listen to, the kind of movies you watch, the kind of education you got, it's like, yeah, it was all designed and pushing you in a certain kind of direction. And that is kind of the element there of the indoctrination. But for Wednesday, Josh, did you have anyone in particular you wanted to look at before we move on to Thursday?
Yes. So before we move on, I want you to hone in on this thing because this will come into a point that I want to make a little bit later towards the end of the show. Could you play the Tucker Carlson interviews Nolan Haley, Nikki Haley's son?
Yes,
clip?
number 6.
It's number 6, yes.
All right, there we go. Got it.
And I interviewed Nick Fuentes is because I wanted to know why Nick Fuentes was popular. And let me just say, none of this is about Nick Fuentes. It's not about one guy. But here you had a guy who was, everyone hated him, he was canceled, and he's getting bigger and bigger. And I thought, it's possible he's saying some things that are dumb or probably, but some things that need to be heard and that are not being heard and that are appealing to young men who feel like they aren't being heard. And maybe we should hear this and maybe even act on some of these problems before things get even crazier than they already are. So I want to talk to you not because I have no idea what you think of Nick Fuentes. I'm not even going to ask you, but because I think that young men are reacting against a society that hates them and have these attitudes we need to hear about. So the main reason I interviewed Nick Fuentes is because I wanted to know why.
You take the lead, brother.
Yes. So I know this show is called the Groyper Report, but if you guys recall, if you guys have been here since the beginning and inception of this show about a month ago, I think it was our second show, which is like when we kind of had all our ducks in a row, like I was in a professional studio as opposed to in my car.
Yeah.
When Nick got the interview with Tucker Carlson, and that split people down the middle on our side, especially on their takes regarding Nick Fuentes. And I know, like I said, this is the Groyper Report. We're talking about that, but I think it's okay for us to speculate a little bit further on this topic. So I don't want to give my cards away because I've got another clip that we'll review at the end of the show. But since that was there for Wednesday, I want you guys to just keep that in mind. Think about what Tucker Carlson said and who he is saying it to. But with that being said, what did you think?
Yeah, this was one of multiple moments where Tucker Carlson had come out in defense of Nick. And so this is kind of him opening up to Nayland of why he wanted to have the interview. And then what we're going to get later on, actually, I think the most full-fledged he kind of comes out with it is maybe on Thursday or Friday when he sits down with, I believe, the 1819 News podcast, Friday, I believe, where he gives even a more full-throated defense of Nick Fuentes. And even the other guy actually is throwing out some numbers out there too, specifically about Nick's popularity as well. And they kind of make the shallow observation that I think we've pointed to multiple times, which is it can't be ignored that when you have and are pulling in nightly, every episode's doing 1 million views in 24 hours, 50,000 live viewers, so many people watching the replay, that can't be ignored. This is kind of the argument I even gave to Chuck too, which is, it doesn't matter even what you think about the merits of the argument anymore. It's the fact that there is a large percentage of people who are pushing for them. So it's like, now what are you going to do? How are you going to engage with them? And what you're getting from the people who oppose them the most is, well, we're going to ignore them. And it's like, yeah, but that's what you've been doing and they've been growing despite that. So that doesn't seem very successful. But that was kind of my thoughts on that. Is there anything else you want to do off of Wednesday?
Off of Wednesday, no, I think we can move on.
Okay. And so the opening thing
Thursday and Friday are pretty heavy.
Yeah, right. Thursday is actually because of all of this, and I think also an answer to Donald Trump's refusal to disavow.
And go home.
Is Chuck Schumer pushing for a resolution to disavow Nick Fuentes as well as anti-Semitism? And so we'll play a little bit of him reading off the resolution here. And again, this is Chuck Schumer pushing for this.
And finally, on anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism in America has reached a dangerous tipping point. Jewish Americans are facing threats, harassment, and violence at levels we have not seen in generations. And as I have said many times in this chamber, anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine. Where there's anti-Semitism, there lurks white supremacy and other pernicious forms of hate.
So the video is super quiet, but Chuck is just continuing on with the same kind of stuff he has always been on. And Nick makes a pretty good point about Chuck Schumer coming out to do this, but not even placating his own base with certain kind of subsidies. What I would say is this, and I think we have a clip in here that Nick also pushes on this as well. And this is probably the dominant underpin for most people who aren't even political lurkers. It does appear for most people who are just looking in, who might even be just tangentially paying attention, peripherally even, that the only thing that our government is concerned about right now is in the interest of Israel and at home domestically defending against anti-Semitism. And that is through and through. You can find it almost in every single member of the cabinet and the administration. You can find it rife between all the Democrats. I believe you're going to find it largely between Schumer, like Hakeem Jeffries is one of the other ones that push pretty heavily for it, John Fetterman. It's seemingly at the tip of everybody's tongue. And the contempt is growing in the average person because they're going, what the hell does Israel have to do with me? And so people who aren't even tuned in to maybe where I am and everyone else here watching, they can at least make that base level observation. But Josh.
Yeah, I think this is just indicative of the entire situation, where a big part of the reason that this sort of Jewish infiltration of our system has been able to go unnoticed for so long is because at face value, it's inoffensive. It doesn't really, it's like saying, our government denounces anti-Semitism. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, why wouldn't they? You know what I mean?
Right.
But and we said this last week, but since October 7th, you're seeing the doubling down and how all of our political leaders on both sides of the aisle, this is the issue that they clearly care about most. It took the Israeli mission in Gaza and war with Iran, how Trump, no new wars. And then they go and brazenly start a war behind his back, or really in front of all our faces. And on top of all that, Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader, is going to come out and denounce a podcast host, a streamer, essentially.
Right.
In the halls of our Congress. They're giving away the game, man. They've revealed too much.
Right. And also happening, I believe, on Thursday as well, was the reveal that Mike Huckabee had visited with Jonathan Pollard, the notorious Israeli spy who served, I believe it was 30 years. It was either 25 or 30, I can't remember, in prison for handing over American intelligence. And in fact, the speculation is the intelligence that he did hand over was first strike intelligence about the United States war plan to firstly engage the USSR. And it is believed that he did sell it to Israel, or they used it to sell it to the Soviets for leverage and other political things. The super chat that we have here from Zeb Boykin is, send Nav money, Tucker is fed. And I think that's the Tucker is fed thing is not going to go away for a while. And this is also funny. Lord of the Rings says Judeo Chuck Schumer. Yes, we have Judeo Chuck Schumer and also Judeo Chuck Mason. Take your pick, left wing Judeo Chuck or right wing Judeo Chuck. I still might have to take Judeo Chuck right wing version actually.
We like our Chuck Mason.
Yes, we do.
Give him a pat on his bald head.
Right. In terms of this, though, opening up from there and going beyond that, this is, again, Nick has another statement reiterating once again this push for this kind of political alliance and partnership. Now, this is now going to be the third time he said it this week. So it was once on Monday, didn't follow it up on Tuesday. No, it was on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So it's something he hit 3 days in a row. And so here is a bit of a clip from that. The third iteration of teaming up with the left.
This is why I said the other night, why don't we have populist Republicans and populist Democrats that just solve problems. Just solve problems for Americans. And by the way, I am willing to compromise with the left, 100%. I'll work with anybody. I saw the track APAC people. It's some progressive woman and some progressive gay guy. I'd work with them on shutting down APAC in a second, in a heartbeat. Same goes for Anna Kaspari and Cenk Uygur. They were in favor of democratic populism. They want to deliver healthcare. They want to deliver education. I would work with them in a second. In a second. A Zohran Mamdani all day. That's why I said we need to rethink and realign our politics based on what actually matters and what matters to us. We have to drop the wokeness, arguably on both sides. We have to drop the wokeness on the left, which is anti-white and obsessed with immigration, basically throwing the borders open. They have to get rid of the tone policing and language policing. And on the right, we can work together with the left. Maybe we have to let go of some of the cruelty and abuse directed at some of the marginalized communities on their side. It's true. There are marginal people. What else would you call a racial minority other than a marginal person? I'm okay with living in a society where we, as long as we close the borders, we can take care of everybody in the country. We can figure out how we can all get along together. As long as there is a consensus agreement that we can put America first. But what I see from the Trump administration and from the Democrats is neither of them are willing or able to actually do anything for people, for the actual people. And this is the evidence. Chuck Schumer opens the government with no Obamacare subsidies after they funded the Trump government earlier in the year without a fight at all. But now he wants to put forward a bill on anti-Semitism. Really? So which constituents are you working for exactly? You can condemn the genocide in Gaza on behalf of your many Muslim or progressive constituents or even Jewish constituents that have a problem with it. You can't deliver on Obamacare, but you're obsessed with it's anti-Semitism, white supremacy, that's a grift. That's just a race hustle. You're just a race hustler. That's just a load of crap. You can take your resolution and shove it up your ass. No one cares. And the same is true on the Trump administration. What are they doing? The Trump administration has deported 300,000 illegal immigrants to date. There's nothing massive about that. 10 million came here in 4 years. They deported 300,000 in a year. The Trump administration extended the corporate tax cut. No tax cut for the middle class, no infrastructure bill, no jobs, nothing. 50,000 jobs down in October. They won't even release the data. But they're subsidizing AI and eradicating regulations for AI and cutting the corporate taxes. And they're giving contracts to little tech, all their Silicon Valley donors, policing anti-Semitism. And again, from both sides, you're getting a lot of talk. You're getting Stephen Miller LARPing his Goebbels, talking about hippie boomers and, you are nothing. We don't like the third world. And on the left, you've got Chuck Schumer bitching about white supremacy and anti-Semitism. They get nothing done for anybody. Neither the left nor the right wins. The populists on both sides get nothing. The people are not being helped in any way. And yet, the one thing they are able to come together and work on is furnishing Israel with missiles, condemning anti-Semitism, funding Holocaust museums, endless stuff like that.
So this is more of the same of what we have kind of been pitching up on, which is, again, that's the most easily noticeable thing about the current kind of political structure there. And that's one thing I would add to it. He said at the very beginning, if anybody missed it, which was the track APAC individuals did go public. Both of them who run the account did do a face reveal. And thank you for the membership, Moss and Miss. Appreciate it. And it was kind of a little disappointing to see the response. Now, what I will say is they both are major liberals. The one is a whale of a woman. I'm not going to hold back on that. She looks like she is pushing 400 pounds. And the other guy is an extremely flamboyant homosexual. The point being there, though, is this is a website and an account that many people have used, sourced, and have seen and also helped with the ratios when they have responded in kind, when they are basically tracking the AIPAC funding of individuals all across X and from people like Randy Fine and others. And it does bring a good point, which is this someone that we're unwilling to work with because of the way they are and other things they want to push for? Or is it more politically expedient to welcome them in, be friendly with them, have them be an assister in this element, which is to push back against Israeli influence? Or should we cut them at the knees, make fun of them, humiliate them, and push them away? It's like, what do you think is more politically expedient in terms of the goals that we have? And that'd be my take on that. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And I get this is probably very confusing to some of the people on our side, which is essentially, at face value, it might appear like Nick Fuentes has had a switch up on his rhetoric, but the truth is it's real now. You know, obviously we have no tolerance for homosexuality. Obviously, like, race realism and white identity is a very uncomfortable topic for a lot of people, but we're not ignoring those things. But the truth is if it's a numbers game, like it's a fantasy that you're going to just like all white people are going to snap out of their funk and they're going to become awake on this issue. Now it is a game of politics, and politics is making deals with people you don't always agree with. The main question I have is, are they willing to do that? Because as you know, homosexuals are very, and fat liberal women are very staunch in their beliefs. And I get the concern. It's like, if we let a little bit of this in, how much will it infect and corrupt us? But I think think about like what Nick Fuentes is saying. He's willing to work with this gay dude and this fat woman. Why? Because they are reporting on AIPAC's activities. I think if that is if they want to send information to Nick or vice versa, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that they're going to be at the next AFPAC conference. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't mean we immediately endorse them and everything about them and their viewpoints and all that. But it is to say, like, if that's what they've been doing and they're going to continue it, it's like, why would we not take advantage of that? But I do. The thing is like, it's the race thing, though. Let me caveat before I continue any further. I don't know how or where you even begin to start to peel that back, especially on the left. I mean, it's already kind of taken shape in the right as well. I mean, you'll see individuals say it's always these white liberal women. I'll see that pretty commonplace among the right wing as well, or it's the white cat lady, as this JD Vance seems to commonly use. And that will probably need to get peeled back, because I do think that would be one of the biggest things. Is it's not going to matter the body of work of what Nick is saying about Israel. The left will be the ones who are only going to see like the racial element of it. And so again, none of this is going to be easy. And I think if anyone's expecting any of this to be easy, is just, I got a vaccine to sell you. This one chat I want to go to from GeoGasser, which I will say I caught on a clip. I think GeoGasser actually super chatted Nick last night, but I was unable to actually find it because I couldn't find the timestamp when I saw it from the Kaiser Rev clip. But we appreciate the super chat, man. He writes, "What's the point of having Judeo Chuck on the show? I know you guys like the guy, but the debate was so hard to watch. You cooked him, by the way, Atlas GG." And I appreciate that. And what I would like to say is this too. You are not the only person who has said this. I have relayed those same communications from people in my community who are unhappy with the fact that Chuck Mason is as involved as he is. What I would say is this. I do think that the way that NAV is being set up is going to be a place for, there's going to be a lot more room for voices you guys might not like. And I do think that is one element that they would like to keep, which is the entertainment element, which is having the debate with people who you're not going to like. And the same thing would probably be true of a leftist, but leftists will probably be bringing outside of the network to have one. And I would say is this, I do understand it, like if it does become a bit too much, obviously you saw me emotionally reactive to some of the things that Chuck was saying in the debate then and there, and I do find some of it to be bad faith. And this isn't to badmouth Chuck, just to say I do hear you guys and I understand it. But that's the goal. And so now it's going to be proliferating out to be hopefully having multiple shows 7 days a week. So, Chuck's one of the individuals we have right now. So of course we're seeing a lot of them. And if you don't like it, I know obviously there's just one show, I guess, or a couple of shows with Chuck you don't have to watch. And if you do want to find more content, more specialized without Chuck there, with no Boomer, obviously offensively accurate as can be a home for you as well too. But I do appreciate the concern, and just let you know, I've relayed it multiple times. Josh can back me up. It was one of the first things I said in the meeting the other day.
Take your
But
Israeli
here's this from
family
Zeb.
and
Here's this from
go
Zeb. This would be Zeb's
home.
response to that as well, since he's listening. Trust the plan. And that's what I would say back too. And again, like, if we have leftists on, if we're gonna debate destiny, I mean, no one's gonna like what he's gonna say either. But I do get, with Chuck being an integral part of it, I do hear what you guys are saying. Josh, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did, and we appreciated Geo Gasser. I mean, he's a loyalist. He's been basically financially holding all of our shows up on his back recently, so we appreciate it, dude. But this is something. I guess it's a matter of perspective. I just never understood it. Like my day job working on the radio show, we have like it's caller after caller. Oh, I agree. And we have two liberal callers. They call in and disagree, and it gets into heated debates. And personally, I find that to be the most entertaining portion of it. Plus, it's like iron sharpens iron. Like Atlas, we were talking about this before the show, and Atlas was telling me essentially about how it was kind of nice because in preparation for the debate, he's kind of like relearning and upping his intellectual game and knowledge about these topics. It's really, if Chuck wasn't here, that wouldn't have happened, or wouldn't have happened in the way that it did.
Yeah. Well, I will say that too. Like, it's funny, right? For anybody who didn't watch it, we don't want to spend too much time on it. But there's a lot there, and I knew I wanted to cover it from front to back. I knew it was going to be very complex, and obviously the JQ ropes in basically the last 150 years, and even then some. And that was a good element of it. It was like practice, right? As much as you might not like Chuck, it's good practice, and it gave me a bit more confidence to debate the next person who may be more equipped. And I guess we'll leave it at that. Moving on, though, to the rest of Thursday, I think there was one other thing I wanted to make sure we played on this. Well, there's two things, actually. And how much time do we have? We have an hour and 20. We're probably going to be fine, actually. So what I'd like to do is this. I think we can skip the comments about Jonathan Pollard meeting with Huckabee, because I think everybody's got a pretty strong grasp on that. It just is obviously a traitorous approach. And one thing I would add in there, too, a post I saw earlier today, and at least I thought it was from today, was somebody highlighting the fact that Trump has said more about, Marjorie Taylor Greene being a traitor than he has said anything about Mike Huckabee's visit with Jonathan Pollard. And so I think there is something to be said about that. And obviously there is more evidence, more and more as we go on, the civil war happening in the administration. It does seem that there are at least some people who are welcome to opposing some of these very pro-Israel sentiments in there. But the one I would like to go to is the one with Roseanne Barr. And these comments were made by Roseanne Barr that were pretty aggressive. And so I don't have the video from Roseanne Barr, but the gist of it was basically this. It was, if America quits supporting Israel, America gets what it deserves, or America gets what it has coming to it. And it was a very odd way to talk about that, given the nature of the relationship with U.S. and Israel. But it's something that I've seen consistently from people like Roseanne Barr who are in that space, who will say, we don't need your support. Israel can defend itself. But also at the same time, if you quit sending us aid, it's like, F you, and America deserves like to be conquered or something along those lines. But before I go any further, Josh.
Yeah. So you don't have the clip of Roseanne Barr?
No, I don't believe so. I have Nick's responding to Roseanne Barr, though.
Yeah, but it essentially, you summed it up perfectly then. It was like that this country that she has totally profited off of, she just flippantly is like, it gets what it deserves. It's probably for the best that we don't have the clip. It's grating on the ears.
Right.
What is it with that? Like all right, I don't want to be that guy, but Mark Levin, Roseanne Barr, what's with the J vocal cords, man? There's something it does to the ears.
That is true, though. It is it's kind of, what's the word, shrieky, right? Is that the right word? Or like scratchy. Nasally is a good one.
A little bit of both. Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
we did get another super chat from GeoGasser again, responding to what we had said. He says, I'm not advocating for making an ideological bubble, but the disengagement tactics were awful. Basically, if you don't have a FOIA with Ben Gurion confessing everything, it's no good. Yeah, trust me, there's a lot of agreement in terms of how that debate went. Trust me. And so that's why we are planning the next one. It's going to have a lot more of hang time. Zeb and Chuck will actually be getting 3 weeks of debate preparation to hopefully avoid anything like what happened with this first one. And it'll be Zeb and Chuck on race realism. And that'll be coming in a couple of weeks. To move on, though, where are we at? This is going to be, okay, back to Roseanne Barr. This is
Take
the
your Israeli
response to,
family
oh, here's another super
and
chat.
go
Thank you for the super
home.
chat. Appalachian Goy, he says, take my money, homie. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And we'll get to super chats as quick as we can. Right? We're going to be just happy merchant. Because the super chats disappear if there's too many of them. But let's go on. Here is Nick, again, responding to the quote from Roseanne Barr that we just went over.
The country, of course, no longer supports Israel. Israel has lost the unconditional support of the American public. And they only have themselves to blame. It's because of their actions. Contrary to what the lunatic Zionists say, it's not because of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not because of Qatar. It's not because of the Marxist Islamic left. It's because of them. It's because Americans got tired of seeing the brutality of Israel in Gaza. They got tired of the hypocrisy. They got tired of seeing the Israel first narcissism, smugness, arrogance, and hypocrisy also of people like Ben Shapiro. So left, right, and center, especially the young people, are just simply changing their minds. We're looking at what this is, and we don't like it. We're turning away from it. We no longer support it. And you hear somebody like Roseanne Barr, who is ostensibly a right-wing culture warrior, pro-Trump, sort of a fixture in the MAGA scene. She's one of the few pro-Trump celebrities. And you might look at her and maybe you don't even know she's Jewish. You might look at her and consider her, because she was the star of a show about working class people, you might consider her maybe even to be relatable. You might think she's just some working class white person. Oh, she's Jewish? Oh, so what? I'm sure that's arbitrary. I'm sure it has no bearing on her identity or her politics. That's not true. And when you listen to these people, when they tell you who they are, listen to them. When they take off the mask and they show you their face, look very closely and remember that. America is turning away from Israel. And by the way, that's our prerogative as Americans. We owe these people nothing. We've given them so much already. We owe them nothing more. We owe them nothing, period. It is our prerogative to talk about Israel and to cut the welfare for them and to stop fighting for them. That's up to us. We're sovereign. Now, the way that Roseanne sees that as a Jewish woman, she says, well, if America stops supporting Israel, Israel will go somewhere else. Israel will just go to India. She goes, and America will get what's coming to it. She goes, America will get what it deserves. Then she says, America will fall. And then she doubles down, America will fall. And you could hear it in her voice. It's like she's happy about this. She's glad. You know, think about the evolution in that clip. She goes, well, if America doesn't support Israel, Israel will do its own thing. Disdain what you can't have. We have contempt for America. If America doesn't support Israel, well, we're indifferent. We don't care. We don't need you. We don't need America. Okay, well, doesn't that kind of show where her heart really is? Like she's indifferent to America. She says, Israel will just go somewhere else. We don't need you. Then she says, and when Israel abandons America, you know, you can't fire me because I quit. When Israel abandons America for another country like India, which is not Western at all, not Western, not white, not Christian, not any, they're not people of the book. She goes, then America will get what it deserves. Yeah. She goes, America will be punished for abandoning Israel. And then they'll fall, she goes. They'll get what they deserve. Whoa, so what happened? I thought these conservative Jews, I thought they loved the West. I thought they loved the West. and they don't like Muslims and the third world. I thought they loved the West and were Judeo-Christians. And Judaism is the foundation of Western civilization, and we're all people of the book.
And that's the big lie. That is the big lie. The big lie is that. And, this is kind of partly the argument I made on Chuck as well, or to Chuck, which is the major element even outside of the blackmail is the fact that the Christian Zionism hybrid, this is just basically a worship of Jewish people. And the way that it kind of culminates and shows itself is somebody like Mike Huckabee, willing to literally travel over to Israel 14 years ago and lobby for an Israeli spy. And you see these things, right, where they're willing to sacrifice anything that America is in the name of this kind of belief in protecting Israel. Now, obviously, there's two different types. There is the Christian Zionist, the Gentile grafted into wanting to be a Jew. And then you also have, obviously, the Jews themselves doing this, similar to Roseanne Barr. And outside of even the element of the way that the aid has been given to them and the way that we have operated with them, is for one, the offensive statement to imagine that just because if Israel's not here, like Islam's going to invade us. It's like, no, it's like, let the Pope call for another crusade again and let's see how it happens. The other thing too is this overwhelming kind of nefarious nature with it too. This kind of the way that they, the way he's even kind of acting, you can pick up off of the body language from Roseanne Barr, the way that you kind of said it in the voice. But I don't even take it as like, oh, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's like, you can feel the contempt, right? They have contempt for people the moment you get close to pushing or wanting to push away from what those interests are. And it's not like it's unique by any means, but it's you can pick up on it pretty easily. But go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I like his comparison. You can't fire me, I quit. That's literally what it is. It's like whether they consciously acknowledge it or say the quiet part out loud, basically the mindset of Ben Shapiro, Roseanne Barr, Mark Levin, Chuck Schumer is the number one guarantor of my allegiance to the United States is its support for Israel.
Yep.
It's what it is.
And
that's the point. Is it's like, this is something the boomers get on us all the time for. This is something that came up in your debate with Chuck. It comes up with me and my boss occasionally. Is it's like, okay, well, it's Zionist, like foreign policy, and it's like, no, it is more than that, and it's not all of them, but it is always them. There is such a thing as world Jewry.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I would add on this too, because I don't think people. Let me say this. I do think with the element of decoupling with Israel, the reason why I think it does really heavily rely on the nature of their nuclear program is because of things like the Samson option. And given the fact that I believe it was even like in the 70s, or it might have been in the 80s, that Israel was attempting to sell nuclear-tipped Jericho missiles to South Africa. And I think the question is kind of now is I don't really know if we have a strong idea of what Israel's nuclear stronghold is now. What is their armament? They don't have any kind of monitoring program on there. And anybody gets close to it, like Vanunu, I mean, you basically get, which he spent 11 years in solitary confinement. He's like the original Julian Assange. And so what I would say is that, the decoupling and the reason why they have the control over us is because if they do possess like a pretty hefty nuclear armament and they have the ability with, using U.S. arms, they can pull out the Samson option. I would wage then we wouldn't have, like, do we have here in America or do around the world, do we have an ability to defend against that? If that became the thing, if they were to go with the Samson option, say we do decouple from them and they threaten that and they push for it, that's where I think it does get to be a little bit scary, which is, as much as I would like to, I think if you were to begin that process here in America, we'd have to do it from the Department of Defense and making sure all the nearby nations around Israel had the ability to, deflect or take down nuclear armaments before they got close to people or the earth or damaging the atmosphere, things like that. And I think given that nature, that the only thing they do care about is Israel, and I think if they were to be threatened that this state they fought 2,000 years to have, by nefarious means anyways, gets threatened, they will continue their criminal activities by holding the world hostage with nuclear armaments. And I think that's why there's a bit of a huge emphasis on the fact of why it's going to be very complex to peel it back.
This is actually something that came up in the super chats this week with Nick, where someone asked him, he's like, okay, so can you be specific? What is the America First policy for the Middle East? And he said basically, bringing Iran into, the basic doctrine of the, kind of bringing them to the table and checking Israel's power. And he basically said regime change in Israel, installing a puppet leader in Israel, which, let's be honest, I don't know if that's even possible without like completely getting rid of the government in of itself. Like we basically would have to occupy them. And it's not simply, and Nick knows this as well. It's not as simple as, well, we'll just rein them in. They don't play that.
Right.
They don't play that.
That's why I think it might be easier with the help of the ICC joining with the international community to denuclearize Israel. Because I think the harder uphill battle would be to get enough people on board to nuclearly arm Iran. And the reason why I say that is because then the other nations are going to want to be armed too. I think once you start, it's a domino effect with Iran. But if you go the opposite route, there's only one nation you need to worry about by denuclearizing, which is Israel.
Denuclearize.
And so I think that's probably the better path forward. But enough on that. Thank you for becoming a member, Lord of the Ring. Appreciate that, brother.
Before we move on though, I want to say though, if we were to actually do that, I don't think someone could run on that because they would pull some sneaky stuff. You know what I mean? You would basically, I've thought about this before, like privately, what would like regime change in Israel look like? It would be like, we would need boots on the ground there, like an occupation where it would just,
you'd have to,
we show up one day.
You would have to. I mean, you would have to use CENTCOM to be the ones who are dismantling the nuclear program. I mean, you'd have to from the start to finish, because given the nature of their nuclear program already, there's no part of that chain of custody can we go, all right, and then when you guys roll out your nuclear materials here, we'll take it off the shore, we'll send it back to America. It's like we can't.
Right.
It's like nope. Vacate the office, give us all the coordinates, all the information. We'll show up to Dimona, and it'll be back in Ohio by tomorrow. But they would consider that an act of war, right? And so like the way that that's going to have to go about it, I don't even know. But again, we're getting closer to being able to have someone in power who could potentially enact something like that. And I think the cool thing with that though is, you would have the support of the international community. That would be maybe the one time America's aligned with the world or something. Outside of the world wars, which was an error. Moving on from there, though, because we were kind of stuck on Thursday, we need to move on to Friday because we are running short on time. Friday, hit it to me. What do you think is the most important thing? Probably Tucker Carlson, right?
Yes. Tucker Carlson, the Sean Ryan preview.
You want to do the Sean Ryan preview or the 1819 one? I think the 1819 one was up.
My bad. Do 1819 one.
Because he says pretty much the same thing with Sean Ryan on the trailer episode that Sean Ryan put out. But this is a clip and a snippet from the 1819 news podcast. Put it on screen here.
I got like written out of conservatism, whatever that is. It's not conservative, but because I interviewed Nick Fuentes, and my point, I said right in the interview, I'm totally opposed to anti-Semitism, just so you know.
Yeah.
And he said he agreed on whether he does or not. I'm not in charge of his soul, but I am. But I interviewed Nick Fuentes because I wanted people to think about, why is this guy the most popular, much more popular than I am, influencer among young men? And it's because they've been destroyed by us. And that's a freaking fact.
Yeah.
And anyone who doesn't know that isn't listening, and anyone who listens but can't hear it is intentionally ignoring it. And shame on them.
Yeah. My generation, I'm tip of the millennial, the older tip of the millennials and down. Saw that you interviewed Nick Fuentes, and I don't think we batted an eye. We're like, like everybody younger than me listens to Nick Fuentes. Like 5 million followers, I think, on Rumble, 170,000 live viewers. At any given moment he goes live, there's 170,000 people that tune into his live streams.
I wonder if the geniuses have ever considered why that is.
That's my point. Is it wrong to get into someone's head and let them say what they believe and give them a platform to do that so that people can actually know what they think? And it's like, why? And then hearing the story of how he was canceled, by Ben Shapiro when he was 18 years old. And it's like, what people need to have a window into the mind of the next generation. And I think that's the missing piece in that, is no one's thinking about that next generation and why they're attracted to this guy.
Well, completely. Yeah. And does, quote, canceling people work? Does telling people, would it work with your kids? If you're child runs into the house, like clutching his leg, and there's blood seeping through his fingers. And he's like, and you're like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. Like, he could probably bleed to death. Like, you have to listen to people, period. And if you refuse to listen to people, you have to ask, why?
Yeah.
Why am I shouting someone down rather than hearing what he has to say?
So this was like the evolution here. And so what you have is Tucker basically going from where he was at with his defense with Megyn Kelly and also with Nayland Haley was, I wanted to hear what he had to say, right? I wanted to know why he was saying it and where this popularity is coming from. Thank you for the super chat. And now it's evolved. And now he's going from, I wanted to know what he had to say to there's merit to what he's saying. And now imploring that more people need to be hearing what he's saying in agreement with where that host is at. And so this is I wouldn't say a pivot, but this is an evolution of Tucker getting closer in alignment to pushing Nick forward. And I do think there's also this element given in politics, and it's just kind of this nature, where when you're under attack day in and day out, and the other person that you see is also under attack with you too, that kind of, the enemy of my enemy becomes my friend. And so they sit there and they go, no matter how far apart we are, we're both getting shat on by the same people. And in that element alone is enough to kind of bring them together. And so whether it's by nature of that Tucker's moving closer to that position, or whether because he's just listening to Nick more, I do think it is a good development, fed or not, that Tucker is promoting Nick Fuentes.
So we got about 20 minutes left in the show. What else we got for Friday? The Tim Pool thing. I mean, I think we kind of get the gist where people are switching up on Nick in a positive way. So if you're cool with it, I want to go ahead and kind of throw something out there that has to do with the Nayland Haley thing.
Yes. Let me just read the super chat and then we'll go to it. This is from Wyatt Kaldenberg. I don't know why it showed up in gray. That's interesting. I'll have to fix that. He says, I read that adjusting for inflation since 1948, the U.S. taxpayer has spent $17 trillion on the Middle East, aid, wars, bribery, etc. We could have transformed the U.S. with this amount of money. And I'm not sure what it is and adjusted for inflation, but it is quite a lot. I think the pure raw number, if you just stack it up without worrying about inflation, as it is something around like 300, 400, 500 billion to Israel alone. That's outside of all other aid that goes out to other Middle Eastern countries, but it is an insane amount. And it is not America. I agree. But which one did you want to go to, Josh?
No, well, before we go to it, I wanted to say this. So, we played the Nayland Haley clip earlier, and this is something we speculated on earlier when it comes to the is Tucker a Fed, or sorry, is Nick Fuentes a Fed debate? And the main thing that was kind of calling this into question for a lot of people, myself included, I'll admit it, was Nick's apparent switch up on is Tucker Carlson a Fed? Nick was the guy who laid it all out on the table and said, Tucker's accusing me of being Fed. He's clearly a Fed. And then he gets on an interview with Tucker Carlson and he's all hunky-dory, he's all friendly and whatnot. And we basically speculated that some people have said, okay, this just confirms he's a Fed. Sure, could. But we speculated that this might be a case of, I think we both agree Tucker Carlson is a Fed. I definitely think he's a Fed. I believe he was sizing Nick up. There's enough similarity between Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes is popular enough to warrant a meeting. And Nick Fuentes has said, we don't have like a compilation of it all here, but like he's hinted that him and Tucker Carlson before his interview, they met for dinner. It was really nice. It was really cordial. And he basically said, like, the jury's out on Tucker, but he's willing to work with me. And that's fine. But this week, Tucker Carlson, he's said some positive things about Nick. It would kind of be a little bit hypocritical of him to throw him under the bus at this point after platforming him. But at the same time, like a week or two after the debate or the discussion with Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, lo and behold, Nayland Haley drops out of the sky. He's on Fox News. He's on Tucker Carlson. He's on all these debates. He's being pushed forward on X, saying basically America first things. and being platformed by Tucker, I think what happened, and I'll just be straightforward. I think what happened is Tucker brought in Nick to size him up. He did not, like, as we kind of jokingly speculated, hold up a picture of his family and go, we're going to kill him if you don't do what we say.
Yeah.
I think he was getting a feel of Nick Fuentes. I think Nick Fuentes was getting a feel of him. If you could sit there and watch the room, it's a very like fingers crossed behind their back sort of, gathering. And I think the clip that I posted shows it. So you want to go ahead and play that? It is clip
Number 7.
Number 7 on Friday.
Let me do it.
And play it at like 1.5 for everyone's sake, because it's a 5-minute long clip.
Oh, word. 1 second. Setting it up at 1.5.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, everybody.
An early release Patreon for the Sean Ryan Show, talking shit in circular statements for 2 hours about you. You are winning. Stay strong, brother. Just a line of
Thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't like that he keeps calling me an anti-Semite. What the fuck is that? He didn't call me an anti-Semite on the show or in person. So what is that? We dinner for 3 hours, then we do a show, we do this big interview. Now I'm an anti-Semite. Since when? So let me get it straight. First, I was a gay fed in my parents' basement. Then we're totally kosher. Now I'm an anti-Semite. So what the fuck is that? He goes on for 3 years. He's been going around telling everybody, oh, he's a fed. He was a fed at J6. And what else did he say about me? Everything you can think of. He was trash talking me to anybody who would listen for years. To Alex Jones, to groups of people. I heard the secondhand from a lot of people. This guy was talking shit about me for years. He worked on that hit piece. Then he goes with Candace Owens finally and says, oh, he's a weird gay kid, came from nowhere. He's a fed. He's the David Duke, blah, blah, blah. Then I do a show. None of that. Oh, let's just not talk about that stuff. Okay, if we're friends, sure, let's not talk about it. Now I'm an anti-Semite. Oh, okay. So what is that? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like fakers. I don't like fakers. I don't like people that, I don't like the put on. Like, just cut the shit. Cut the act. Like, see, I'm so over that kind. It's deeply frustrating to just kind of have people lying to your face playing games like that. Oh my gosh. Maybe I'm just not cut out for politics, but that's just very like two-faced. Is it because they're on his ass now or what is that? But he's going around saying, I disagree with his anti-Semitism. What the fuck? Sorry, are you Ben Shapiro now? What is anti-Semitic about what I say? Honest to God. I go on the show every night. I say, I don't hate anybody. Don't attack people physically or verbally. We don't hate them. We don't want to hurt them. We don't want to take their rights. We just want them to be loyal to America. They can't have power if they're abusing it. What is anti-Semitic about that? Honestly. And he's totally playing a game with me right now where he's trying to go around and say, we understand and we pity him. And we just want to know why people like him. Why? So you can reverse engineer it and make some other guy that isn't like me at all? You want to know why people like me? Why? So you can kill me and then take my audience? Is that why? You want to pander to my audience, take me out, and then you're going to give my audience to Rufo and Lomez or JD Vance or something? It's all bullshit. I'm getting real tired of all of it.
The last pirate sent $25. Gen X is with you. We give on support.
Thank you. Yeah, Gen
Groyper
X.
Del Rey sent $30. You are with Trump or you are against him. Okay, boomer. Only as if deals and absolutes. The Groypers will do what we must.
Ugh.
SS Edmund Fitzroy sent $100. During the campaign season, I thought you were being overly paranoid about Trump. But nope. I got. Never again. I'm sorry I voted for Trump Steinberg. It's in 2024. Fuentes was right. Fuentes is right. AF's inevitability is the white
Thank you. Thank you for the big super chat. That's the thing. It's like, let's back it up a little bit. People keep saying, why is he so popular? Do you want to know why I blew up this year? Because I was right about Trump. Before I was on any big collaborations, I blew up this year because I was right about Iran. Because I told people throughout last year, don't vote. We're going to war with Iran. Tucker was at the RNC. You were wrong. I was right. That's why people support me. It's not because they're bitter. It's not because they're hateful. It's not because they're angry or they're losers. It's because I'm the only one that's right here. I'm the only independent that, my son doesn't work for the vice president. My dad didn't work for the CIA. That's because I'm independent. I'm like able to say the truth without a pretense. And that's not an attack either. That's not an attack. It's just what it is. I'm not complicated like that. I don't have the same complications because I'm completely on the outside. That's the point I'm trying to make here. It's totally different. I'm so sick of hearing this. Why would anyone like him? Why would anyone like this guy? Because I'm funny and I'm correct. I'm not funny right now because I'm pissed off, but they go, what made him this way? What made me this way? I read. I fucking read and I see through your tricks.
One thing real quick.
He sees through the lies of the Jedi.
Right, the lies of the Jedi. Let me read this super chat before I turn it back over to you, Josh. From Geogasser, he says, Nick is a self-proclaimed genius. Tucker massaged his ego and was willing to overcome his beliefs to be a TV star. Thank you for the super chat, brother. But I'll turn it back over to you, Josh.
Yeah, and I think this clip basically shows that take is wrong, but I get the sentiment, and I think that is kind of true. But I think Nick has a big ego; no one denies that. But so what I enjoyed about that clip is it basically confirms everything. So Nick's take on the whole like what the podcast tour that Tucker Carlson's been on since then, where people are asking him about his interview with Nick Fuentes, he doesn't see it as a total non-disavow. I think it's evident now that Tucker Carlson is playing the game, and Nick was basically a play. And he summed it up perfectly. I think what it is Tucker Carlson is trying to ingratiate himself to us, to the Groypers, so that he can reverse engineer it with someone like Nayland Haley or the like. I mean, this is CIA 101,
Yep.
and then put them forward. I think that's the play. It's a very obvious play, and it is not going to work. I think he underestimated the Nickifants, the fanaticism on in the Groyper sphere.
Yeah, well, I would say this. I think that actually Tucker's less obvious than Jake Lang, and they're the same thing. It's, Jake Lang's going to attempt to hold this anti-Muslim, hold up the cross. We hate all the Muslims. And, he's got guys, what I would say, looks like filling up the crowd wearing America First hats in that same kind of vein to appeal to that crowd. Only thing is, with Jake Lang being so obvious, I don't think it's going to work. Tucker, though, I think would work. And this is kind of the tactics, right? Commandeering an influence, co-opting a movement. This is 101 basic politics. This is kind of what they try to do. And that probably would be the avenue they would have to go with Nick. I don't see a world in which Nick could be out, orated, if you will. I don't see a world in which Tucker would start to say things that would be what would be more pleasing to hear for the Groyper audience than what Nick would be coming up with. And so I do think there's a bit more truth than I would like to hear in that statement when he says, you're going to kill me and take my audience. One other thing I'll say this too, we've had about 170 people watching pretty concurrently. If you could smash that like button, that we would heavily appreciate it. And that would be the one like equals one less Roseanne Barr reference. We need to get something going there. But we did kind of, we are running short on time here. There's two things I want to go to. Neither of them are actually videos. But one thing I would like to add on the Tim Pool element, because I do think that is suspect as well and should be monitored in the upcoming weeks. I don't find it to be a pivot per se in terms that he's going to start actively defending Nick. But I would say that I do think that people like Tim Pool, who have positioned themselves not as MAGA as much per se, but also like adjacent to it, I think that during this Nick rise, I think that his credibility has probably been shot. And I do think him taking on some of these gatekeepers like Joel Berry, who is like the lowest hanging fruit of anybody. I could debate Joel Berry with my eyes closed and without a microphone. This guy, Tim Pool, uses that moment to shit on Joel Berry because he's an easy target. And I think it kind of bolsters him back up to the people who might not be Groypers all the way, but are seeing things as objectively as they can with what's going on. And maybe Tim thinks that's in a way to appeal to that, seeing how he's already being kind of pushed out from the TPUSA crowd. The next thing would be somebody said disavow of Thomas Rousseau. I wouldn't classify it as that. He did push back against Patriot Front, but it's the same thing he's been saying for some time now, which is the militant optics of what Thomas Rousseau and Patriot Front is setting out to do. I mean, especially now at this point as well, like Nick is like, it's a no-go. It's like, especially, and I like that he caveated with this too, when the Democrats inevitably come back into power because Republicans have absolutely shat the bed, Patriot Front's going to be one of the first groups that they go after. It'll be one of the first things they're going to try to rope in or RICO or find some way to get their communications, paint them as the worst people of all time. And if Nick gets close to that, I mean, it opens himself up for his communications and then to be painted even worse and then, and be banned and everything else like that as well, which is unfortunately, in my opinion, coming. But for the two things, though, we have actually a new screen. It's going to be cool for you guys to look at. Let me back up here. Because what I would like to do is... You scared me for a second. This Candace Owens threat on her life. Now, this is kind of loosely in the realm of the Groyper report, but it is very, very, very disturbing to read through. And so this has about 21.2 million views. And so the gist is that Candace Owens became privy to the fact that there is a French assassination plot against her. And so she writes here again, this person provided concrete proof that they are well placed within the French government apparatus. And so the person who told her gave proof to Candace that they are a high up government official inside the French government. And so there's been a lot coming out along this from some of the usual suspects, like the crazy village lady and many others who kind of follow along with this. But it is kind of disturbing, and I think it's probably one of the most viral things I've seen on the platform in the last few days. Just to point your attention to that. But what falls back closer into the Groyper realm is actually this reveal that we had. And so if anybody has been paying attention, I'm not going to play the video, but I'm going to pause it real quick. If anybody has been paying attention to the latest reveals on X, the latest updates to X, they were implementing a country of origin. And they were implementing this because they wanted to be able to clean up and give people the ability to see where content was coming from. And this was largely in the vein of not wanting to see a bunch of Indian slop accounts and a lot of this, just the foreign influence, if you will, on X, even if it's political or not. And it was shut down. Now, I had gotten wind that it was shut down, but I didn't know why it was shut down. And I assumed somebody probably complained or somebody had their feelings hurt. But then I saw this from iHypocrite. And iHypocrite, in this video, says that the official DHS account was revealed to have been created in Israel. I saw a screenshot of this and assumed it was a joke, but apparently it's real and confirmed by Grok. The geolocating features were disabled shortly after going live. And what you can see is a screen grab here of someone clicking on the Homeland Security count here on X. I'll make it bigger for everyone to see. Date joined July 2008 in Israel. The account is based in Israel, and the account is connected and was joined and downloaded via the Israel Android app. That is quite damning if that is a real thing. And I'm sitting here, I don't even have words to tell you of what I think of this, but if that is to be true, all I have to say is, damn, does that track. Josh,
shut it down. Shut it down. We can't have this.
Shut it down.
Dude, I hadn't even heard about this until you just brought it up. I mean, what are we doing, guys? Like, what must happen? It's almost blackpilling when you think about it.
Right.
What more do you need to see, guys? Like, the DHS made in Israel. They're everywhere, man. It is a what do you like Zeb says it's a podcaster run government. Or is that an original? But anyway, it's a podcaster run government. Yeah. Podcast infiltrated government. Their whole nation is a nation of spy games. That is what their entire that's their culture, that's their people, that's everything. And it's like, well, why are you so obsessed with the Jews? I'm like, you act like they're under your bed. Well, they're not under my bed, but they are making the DHS social media page. They are infiltrating. They're all the billionaires. Oh, well, they're only 2%. There's no way they could do it. They're only 2%. Okay, but that 2% controls how much of the wealth in this nation?
Right. Yeah, and that seemed to be the argument Chuck wanted to roll with, although it seemed to be beneficial to my argument, not his. But again, this kind of goes to the way that people think about things. And it's kind of sad.
Whoa.
Also,
it's Atlas. It's their self-interest. Wouldn't you do that if you were them? Well, of course,
right.
Of course, but
right. That's the caveat here, right? It's you're not. It's everyone else is allowed to act in their own self-interests except for white people. And there was a good clip even from Nick earlier in the week as well, talking about like, everyone else can organize, right? A bunch of black people can get together, and it's like we're the Black Restaurant Group of Chicago, right? And we're all going to get together and talk about our problems as black restaurant owners. Nobody bats an eye. We're the Indian Conference of Tired of Being Called Scammers group. And you get together and they talk about all the times they got called a scammer outside and IRL. but God forbid a group of white people. God forbid a group of white men get some motion. But you get together and you get 10 white dudes in a room and you say, this is for white men only. This is our white only male group talking about white problems. You will be getting RICO'd. The FBI will be infiltrating your Discord. They'll be telling you to go kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. And so it's just a big joke. It's just a big joke. The civil rights was an abysmal attack on the freedom of association, and I think that's one thing that doesn't be pushed back against on it. Arvol's doing it in a great way as well, but I would say it needs to proliferate. I mean, it needs to be more than that. It needs to be that Discord, in its terms of service, recognizes my ability to have a white-only Discord. That's the direction that we need to go. Like the freedom of association in all elements, not just the ones for the groups that they say are marginalized and are allowed to. But with that, we have reached pretty much the end of this week's coverage. We did miss a couple of decent things. Steven Crowder is getting closer to apparently having Nick on, although this is about the 10th time he's said it, and we've not seen it yet. I can't imagine it's that hard for Steven Crowder to send a message. And what was another one of the things that we ended up missing? There's some good crash out moments from this week. I would encourage people to go back through and look. But that basically does it for this coverage for this week. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Make sure that you have smashed the like button, or you're probably Jewish. And make sure that you also subscribe to Nav Creators, but also the other collaborators here on this network. Not Josh. Josh kind of sucks, but definitely me, Zeb, and John Ward. No, I'm just messing. Definitely Josh. I won't be offended if you don't subscribe to Chuck Mason. No, I'm just messing too. Subscribe to everybody who you appreciate and who you enjoy. We are beginning to proliferate this out a bit more. I would imagine also coming with that will also be the proliferation, hopefully, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But again, with every step we add, that's a lot more work on too few plates. And that's kind of where we're at right now, trying to find more people to bring in and rope in, more efficient ways to get content out and increase our overall throughput. And I just want to say too, it's all partly because of your guys' help as well. And the majority of it, I would actually say. So thank you for all the support from you guys, all the workers, all the people coming in, sending in links, showing up to the shows day in and day out to give a piece of their mind about Chuck. We appreciate all of that. And I'll turn it over to Josh before we sign off.
Yeah. Wrapping up, I want to say a special thanks to AtlasThugged, the man without sleep. He's the blood and oil of this operation. Couldn't do it without him. I'm happy to be along for the ride. I'm happy to be a part of the Groyper Report, but all praise must go to Atlas.
I appreciate
He's the best. We love him. And of course, you guys. This wouldn't be possible without you. I want to thank you all for watching. And I'm super excited. Let's be relatively, Nav has been on a meteoric rise as well. And I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Yes. No, it's been amped. What's insane is the fact that it took me a year and a half to get monetized on my own, and then Nav got monetized in like 3 days. It's like,
well, I mean,
that's crazy.
It's John, you, and Zeb, and right. To a certain extent, me with pre-made audiences. So
yeah, the culmination.
So like don't put yourself down.
No, I'm just saying, the difference of like how quickly we're able to make things and get it running, and it's very exciting. Especially with you guys coming in as well. But here's a super chat, probably the last one of the night. He says, Crowd will be bad faith as F. With Nick, I agree. I completely agree. I would imagine Steven Crowder will pull out some Egyptian black magic if he had to. He will probably do anything he can to defend the state of Israel. But with that, as always, Christ is king. Make sure you guys are first seeking the kingdom of God. I hope everyone's journey with Christ is going as well as it can be. Make sure you are actively trying to seek out a church. I know it is hard out there. But with that, deport Cash Patel or jail him. I don't care at this point. And we need to get the Epstein files and ban Pam Bondi and every single woman from public life. And Lord have mercy, one day we will probably get our country back. Probably. Hopefully. No, we should. America first, America only. Everybody have a good rest of your night. Take care.
Where do you stand politically? Give us your political ideology.
Okay, I can say anything I want.
Yeah, bro. Say Rumble.
I don't know, the day-to-day stuff, I'm like, yeah, more bullshit. Another white girl got stabbed to death? Of course she did. What do you expect? For my politics, I just watch America First with Nick Fuentes.
Okay.
I consider myself a Groyper. sometimes I just wait to hear Nick's take to make sure I have the right take before I make videos, you know? So, yeah, I just go with what Nick says. I just defer all my political opinions to Nick Fuentes at this point. I'm America first. I wish that we had white Christian men running the country. It's unbelievable to me that we have a government that has a policy other than America first. How does that make any sense? We pay taxes, like, use our taxes to benefit the country that we live in.